already has let us into the reason why he may not be a perfect communicator, and so on and so forth. And so basically, listening, being that forgotten aspect of communication, it's often seen at homes. We tend to play deaf to our spouses. We tend to play deaf to our children. And so, for us as mothers, for instance, because women, I give it to women, we tend to juggle, we tend to multitask a lot. And so, imagine you're in the kitchen cooking, you're also watching probably the microwave, what you have put in there. Yeah, at the same time trying to take care of the laundry. Three things already I've mentioned, and who knows the other ones. And then your little one comes along and says, "Mommy, they told us to bring 5 naira to school tomorrow for our PTA meeting preparation." And then you say, absent-mindedly, you say, "Okay, no problems, I'll give you." And then the following day, you get to school with this child, and the child says, "Mommy, what of my 5 naira?" And the next thing you say is you shout at the child and say, "Which 5 naira?" And then the child goes on like, "But mommy, I told you yesterday and you said okay, no problems." And then you're like, "When? Who did you tell? When did you tell me that? And I told you I will pay. Are you sure, not me?" It's funny, but it happens to us a lot. I'm saying women because I'm a woman and I know I can recall such incidences. And so the truth is that you even responded to that child the previous day, thinking that you listened. The truth is that you heard what the child said, but you didn't listen. And so listening takes internalization. And what we do at home as family members, many a times I could refer it to, probably we tend to take one another for granted over time. And so we feel, okay, she's talking. I already know what she wants to say, so no need. Or he talks, oh, he will definitely say this, so no need. But it is dangerous. And the most dangerous aspect again is that we even talk more than we listen. But the truth is that people tend to be drawn closer to people who listen to them more than those who talk to them. So the idea is not for us to be great talkers, actually. It's for us to be great listeners. And no wonder nature gave us 2 ears and one mouth. By implication, it means that we should do twice as listening as we talk. But we tend to do the opposite. We tend to talk more and listen less. And it doesn't help us because what happens is that it creates room for ineffective communication. And what is actually the essence of effective communication? It's all about reducing communication error and ensuring that we understand what the person has said to us and we align our actions to be in tandem to what their requests or their suggestions are. But when we fail to do that, we create room for mistrust, misunderstanding, and then it's difficult for us to get the other person on our side. Whether it's our children, that's when we begin to think that, oh, our children are being disobedient, or they're being recalcitrant, or they're not listening to what we are saying. And so that conflict sets in, and it now takes us to another level of communication, which is conflict resolution. And so, if we are able to listen as humans, actually, it will remove a lot of challenges that face us on a daily basis in our family and outside our homes. And sometimes, just as Patrick rightly said, it takes humility, it takes simplicity and docility too, because sometimes you feel, okay, let's say a man and his wife arguing, and the woman is trying to prove her point, trying to show that she knows what she's saying and she's right. And in that vein, she's not listening to what her husband is saying. And the truth is that many men, if not all, have their ego. And so they crave you to respect them. And part of that respect is your ability to listen. And so, if as a woman, well, it's vice versa actually, but why I'm using this example is for us to at least put certain things in perspective. The man can easily get provoked simply because he might perceive your constant talking or nagging or complaining as disrespectful. And so, what happens is that it becomes difficult. And I like what there's this book, Communication Rules, Roles, Strategies, and Games, written by Smith et al. And he described listening as a process and not a role. He said that what the poem is with us is the fact that we tend to look at listening as a role. I mean, you should be the one to listen and not me. And by trying to assign those roles and not um, budging, it makes it difficult for us to be on the same page. And seeing it as a process means that you are listening to the one speaking out of love. You're listening because you care. You care about what that person is saying. You care about that person. You're listening because you are interested in what that person is saying. And so, by the time you demonstrate such behavior, it's easier for the other person to also understand you, trust you, and be able to work with you as a team, whether it's your husband or your wife or your children. And it happens a lot with our children when we feel like, okay, we are because we said so, so to speak, therefore they must obey. And then you give an instruction. You go out, you come home, the plates are not washed yet. What happened there? It's simply because you felt that it's your role as the parent, as the father, as the mother of the house to assign these tasks to these children. And it is their role as the children to listen to you and obey and do what you've asked them to do. But it doesn't work that way. Instead, when you understand that this is the bone of my bone, this is my offspring, and we're in this family together, and in love, it's if we work together. John, if you're able to wash this plate, it will help the smooth process of the family, and all of us will be happy. The child will easily obey, and everybody will be happy. And so, listening is not just listening, or it doesn't end there, but active listening is the key. Because you might say, okay, I don't just hear, I listen, but you don't listen actively. That also becomes a challenge. So, for you to be a good listener, you must be an active listener. So, if you're a man or a woman or a child, you find yourself in a situation where you're having a conversation with any of your family members and you tell yourself that you're a good listener, it means that you should be able to show certain traits or qualities or elements that will qualify you as a good listener. You have to give non-verbal cues. For instance, you have to nod, or even verbal cues, because sometimes I know I have that challenge with one of my children too. Sometimes I call him and I give instructions. When I'm done talking, he will just walk away. Meanwhile, for me, I'm waiting for him to say, okay, mommy, or I've heard, or okay, so where do I get started from? But he doesn't say anything and he walks away. And I get worried and I'll call him back. I just spoken to you. He will now say, I know. And I will say, so what do you have to say? So, but I heard what you said. I don't necessarily have to say anything. But what happens there is that for me, I was expecting a feedback, a verbal one, right? He doesn't give any of those. Non-verbal, he doesn't even nod to show it. It was a battle until over time. He now got used to either saying, okay, mommy, or he will just nod. But that's the way we are wired as human beings. Feedback, we always look for that because it's very necessary. Then I've mentioned nodding here. It's closely related to body language and it has to be positive body language. If a man is talking to his wife and the woman is having both hands across the chest, two things: body language interpretation. If it's on a day like this, today that we know that it rains in the morning, the man could think, okay, perhaps she's cold, right? But if it's on a sunny afternoon like yesterday that it was hot, the truth is that he will feel immediately that his wife is either insulting him and she's not being interested in whatever he has to say. I mean, and she's not ready to have that conversation. It could be a put off. Same goes for maybe hand on the waist, which we call standing akimbo. It means probably you're daring the person. So if the person is your elder, it's not recommended. And all these will make people probably not to listen to you when you're talking. And then again, one that we do a lot is interrupting the speaker. If you're a good listener and you are an active listener, you're not supposed to interrupt. You're supposed to wait and listen patiently so that you can get the person's point of view. By getting the person's point of view, it's easier for you to understand where the person is coming from and then be able to respond accordingly. So I believe that listening plays a very key role in communication in the family. Thank you.
Thank you once again, Chiamaka. Thank you very much. Without wasting time, because I just want us to do fast so that we can have little time for comments and questions. This one goes to the three of you now. No, the two of you, Patrick and Chiamaka. Then I'll go to Patrick first. Um, what's your advice to parents or teenagers? How can they effectively communicate with their teenagers? Because all of us know that those are trying periods for parents. When they see, like you talk to that your little boy or little girl, then that you say, go this way, the baby or the girl will go. And you got to a stage and growing up is talking to the child is like, what are you saying? What are you saying? Why? You remember you ever said, oh, why? Why should I do that? So now, Patrick, I think you go first, then Chiamaka to throw in more light, just short, so that we'll have time for more discussion. Time is up. Okay,
Okay.
Patrick.
All right.